the divine being, envisioned as shining like the sun. So actually, the first half it goes Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Dhimahi means we meditate. So first we express this, that we are meditating. Who are we meditating on? The Bhargaha, the effulgence, the radiant light of that divine being, that Deva, the Devasya, who is that Savitur Varenyam, that adorable. Savitur means the sun, actually. Right. So Tat Savitur Varenyam, but we don't take it as literally the sun. We take it as the sun of consciousness, the sun of the divine, that's in infinite shining divine reality. So we meditate on that reality, and Dhiyo yo na prachodayat. May our hearts, our dhiya, our intellect, may he illumine, may he guide, may he inspire. So the idea is that we first affirm that we are meditating on that infinite radiant light. We can even connect it to Bhur Bhuvasva by saying from whom has emanated this entire universe. So we meditate on the effulgence of that adorable shining being from whom emanates the entire universe. May he illumine our minds. That's a kind of a rough translation of a profound verse of meditation and prayer. Om Bhurabhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhurabhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhurabhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om. Vivekananda gives a wonderful image of the mind for understanding meditation in the idea of Raja Yoga, of gaining mastery over our minds. He says, the bottom of a lake we cannot see because its surface is covered with ripples. It is only possible for us to catch a glimpse of the bottom when the ripples have subsided and the water is calm. If the water is muddy or is agitated all the time, the bottom will not be seen. If it is clear and there are no waves, we shall see the bottom. The bottom of the lake is our own true self. The lake is the mind stuff, and the waves, the thoughts. As soon as the waves have stopped and the lake has become quiet, we see its bottom. So with the mind. When it is calm, we see what our own nature is. We do not mix ourselves, but remain our own selves. So this is a little idea on this idea of stilling the mind, how the mind stuff is agitated. So we don't see, it's our minds are illumined by by the infinite consciousness that is our own true being, but it's obscured by all the waves. I don't know if you've ever been camping or something where you go to a lake and it's a calm day and the water is like glass, and you look down, you can see the bottom of the lake maybe 15, 20 feet down, just like you could just reach down and touch it. It's quite far, but because the water is completely still, any sand that was stirred up is settled down and it's completely clear. So like that. That's the idea of the traditional idea of Raja Yoga, completely stilling the mind so that it becomes completely clear and pure. And then who we are is clear to see. Our own true self is manifest there. So that's the idea behind yoga of meditation. And now I'm going to give a little taste on the yoga of work. Vivekananda says, the ideal person is one who, in the midst of the greatest silence and solitudes, finds the intensest activity, and in the midst of the intensest activity finds the silence and solitude of the desert. Such a one has learnt the secret of restraint, has controlled him or herself, I should say mastered him or herself. Such a one goes through the streets of a big city with all its traffic, with mind as calm as if one were in a cave, where not a sound could reach, and is intensely working all the time. That is the ideal of karma yoga. And if you have attained to that, you have really learnt the secret of work. So that's one idea of karma yoga, this idea that, and Sri Krishna gives the same idea in the Gita, that in action we find the lack of action or inaction. In being very active, there's part of us that remains unaffected, that doesn't do, that holds on to our true self. And then again, when not acting, when sitting quietly in one's room, one is intensely active, praying for the welfare of all, perhaps, or sending out good vibrations, or perhaps simply stilling the mind and placing it fully at the feet of the Lord. That takes tremendous tapas, it takes tremendous energy to be able to do that. So this that is Swamiji's ideal of karma yoga. And he gives another, karma yoga itself is a vast subject. We're just touching on these a little bit. One of the greatest lessons I have learned in my life, he says, is to pay as much attention to the means of work as to its end. Let us perfect the means. The end will take care of itself. For the world can be good and pure only if our lives are good and pure. It is an effect, and we are the means. Therefore, let us purify ourselves. Let us make ourselves perfect. So this is the idea of karma yoga, that so often when we're doing something, we're focused on the end, on the result. A simple example, I'm going to wash the dishes. Why? So that I can get the sink clean and go on to the next thing. Well, then that's not karma yoga. I can just pay attention to washing the dishes without thinking about the result. The result will come. The dishes will get washed. They'll get washed well. And if I wash them carefully, I make sure I get all the dirt off, then all the food scraps, little bits of food off, and rinse it well and place it. Then we start to turn it into yoga. And actually, Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist teacher, recently left the body, probably second most famous Buddhist teacher after the Dalai Lama. In his first book, he describes this teaching that he was going to do the dishes after the meal, and one of the other guests at the meal offered, I want to do the dishes. And so he asked, the monk asked this devotee, but you have to know how to wash the dishes. And he was just like, well, what do you mean, how to wash? Everyone knows how to wash dishes. And he said, no. Are you washing dishes to get them out of the way? Or are you washing dishes just to wash the dishes? He put it that way, to do it mindfully, because every moment, for him, following the practice of Buddhist mindfulness, every moment is a moment to be mindful and to be aware of this present moment, because this moment is the only moment that is. And this is the only moment in which we can be free. If we are constantly putting our freedom off into some future moment, then we'll never be free. It's always in the future. But it's actually right here, right now, that we can be free. So we can be free washing the dishes if we simply attend to it and do it with full mindfulness and attention. Not to finish it and get on to something else, just to do it and to be fully mindful of it. So that was his teaching about doing dishes, how to turn doing dishes into yoga with a little Buddhist mindfulness added to it. So Swami Vivekananda says, to become harmoniously balanced in all these four directions is my ideal of religion. So, let me read just a little more. This religion is attained by what we in India call yoga, union. To the worker, it is union between, he says, men and the whole of humanity. I guess to the worker, it is a union between the individual person, the individual man or woman, and the whole of humanity. To the mystic, between his or her lower and higher self. To the lover, union between oneself and the God of love. And to the philosopher, it is the union of all existence. This is what is meant by yoga. I was reflecting on what is common to all yogas, all our yogas, and what is one of the essential things that keeps coming back in yoga. Yes, the meaning is union, but what is the actual instruction? What is the actual practice? And, Self-purification, good. All these are good. Yes. You had some selflessness. What I was actually thinking of is repetition, abhyasa, doing it again and again and again. And it seems kind of boring. If we put it that way, you think, who'd want to do that? It's boring. We want to watch a different TV show every day, We want to do something different. We want to go to a different restaurant. We want to do different things. Same thing every time, same thing. So how does a repetition actually lead to freedom? And how does repetition lead to deepening our spiritual life, into making progress? But Swami Vivekananda, he says, tell yourself again and again, continually remind yourself, remember always. These kind of things he says again and again. He repeats himself. Josephine MacLeod remembers how, and Josephine MacLeod didn't consider herself a disciple, but only a friend of Vivekananda. Though in a sense she also was a disciple, but she didn't think of herself as a disciple. But she says that Swamiji told her, always remember, you are incidentally an American and a woman, but always a child of God. Tell yourself day and night who you are. Never forget it. Beautiful, very Vedantic. Incidentally, you are in an American body, you are an American, incidentally, and incidentally you're a woman or a man. Incidentally, you are Indian, or you are Bangladeshi, or you are whatever you are, incidentally. You are a Hindu or a Christian or a Muslim, incidentally. But you are always child of God. Tell yourself day and night who you are. Day, night, and in other words, continually remind yourself. Constantly tell yourself, he says, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not thought, I am not even consciousness. I am the Atman, the self. So this kind of repetition, which in this context, of course, would be the practice of jnana, of the wisdom path, remind ourselves, oh yes, I am that. We may not always, we may not be directly experiencing it, but we remind ourselves, repeated reminders. And of course, in the bhakti, the practice of bhakti yoga, we think of it most often because we have the practice of japa, of repeating a mantra. And we repeat it. Once would be enough, right? If we could place our whole mind in it, have complete and perfect concentration and fully manifest the vibration of that mantra, one repetition is all we need. But what do? We have probably, we received instructions in meditation, at least we repeated at least 108 times. And most sincere seekers probably repeat it thousands of times in a day, maybe even tens of thousands of times. Why?
How about repeating the same food over and over again?
Repeating the same food? Food. Same food over and over again. Got this. You got used to it. You enjoyed the sattvic. It's true. Most people actually, we see that breakfast. Most people eat the same breakfast every day, but dinner people want something different. Most people, you are unique. You're reaching that level of sameness where it doesn't matter what you eat. Can take the same thing. But Swami Vivekananda gives us a nice image here. He says, new channels for thought will be made in the brain. Nerves which have not acted in your whole life will begin to work, and a whole new series of changes will come in the body itself. So this abhyasa yoga, we could call it, the yoga of practice, of repetition, we establish new currents. Because the old currents are so strong, the current of taking ourselves to be a limited person, a man or a woman or a child, and a weak someone who's suffering and identified with our work and with our cars and with our houses and all these things. So to redirect the mind, it takes work. It's like rain falling on a mountainside, and it forms into little rivulets, and gradually those rivulets become grooves, and as the water continues to run through it, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper, and so all the water flows in that channel. Now, if you want to make a new channel, it's tremendous work. You have to divert the water into this new channel. Well, then you have to make that channel. You have to start forming that channel, make it deeper. So the idea behind repetition, it seems to me, is to, as it were, put new grooves in our minds so that the mind flows into these new directions. The old directions are still there. We talked last week, or I guess last month, about habits and how when we want to change habits, it's very difficult to simply stop a bad habit because there's a habit loop in our brains. But what is much easier and where we succeed is by replacing a bad habit with a better habit. And then we simply do that better habit. But the old habit loop is still there, that old tendency to smoke a cigarette or whatever bad habit that we had. So we are careful to continue to repeat the new habit. So spiritual practice is a little bit like that, creating channels, new channels for the mind to run in. So let's talk a little bit about this idea of prayer as as part in the context of bhakti yoga, in the context of developing love for God, how to develop love for God, how to love someone whom we don't know. And of course, on the one hand, it is possible we don't necessarily know God, and yet somehow we begin to love God. But we can develop, and Sri Ramakrishna encourages us to develop a relationship with God. Take a particular attitude and develop that. So it might be, and there's the 5 traditional attitudes in the Vaishnava tradition of Shanta, looking upon God with a peaceful mood, of simply a peaceful gaze upon the infinite. But sometimes more appealing are some of the other attitudes, like the attitude of a servant. I am here to serve the Lord, and everything I do is for the sake of God, for the sake of the Lord, for the sake of Divine Mother. And I offer everything at her feet, at his feet. And that relationship will be expressed also through our prayers, and it becomes expressed through our work. For others, perhaps the attitude, as Sri Ramakrishna most often took, of a child. I'm just a child of my Divine Mother. And he would run to his Divine Mother always, like a child, with his earnest and sincere prayer. Some may like to develop this attitude of a friend. And I think Swami Vivekananda developed that attitude towards Sri Ramakrishna. After he had left the body, he had this attitude of Sri Ramakrishna as my friend. Then there's this tradition in India of looking on God as one's child, as especially the child Krishna, though also one can, Sri Ramakrishna had a teacher, a Vaishnava teacher, the Jatadhari, the monk with the matted locks, who had a child Rama. He looked on God as the child Rama, and had developed such an intimate relationship with Rama as a child. So that attitude is there. And we see that in the Christian tradition, but only once a year. At Christmas, suddenly everyone loves Jesus as a baby. But it doesn't last long. It lasts for a few days, and then he's back to being the savior. But when we look on God as a child, God loses his grandeur and his majesty, and it's rather we who have to look after God. Not that God is looking after us. It sort of turns the tables, and we can develop this, because as we were talking, as we were saying, that love between mother and child is that most intense love, that most unselfish love. And then, of course, there's the love of the lover and the beloved, which is so that God becomes like my sweetheart, my lover, as it were. Madhura bhava, the sweet mood. So these different attitudes. And how do we develop that attitude? Well, the prayer is tremendous help in that. And though we talk a lot about, in Vedanta Society, about prayer and about, we talk a lot about meditation, we practice meditation, we have time set aside for meditation, we talk about japa, many of us have a mantra we've received, we do japa. We don't talk much about prayer. But if you read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna carefully, first of all, he's constantly praying. He's constantly uttering prayers himself. And he's telling us, he's telling the devotees on him, pray. He also says, yes, do other things. But the most important things he says, pray. Actually, he gives a kind of framework, a simple framework for a spiritual life. And it has just a few some of the salient elements. 1, pray. 2, develop that relationship with God. 3, holy company. Cultivate holy company, like what we're doing today. We're spending time with other seekers of God. That's very important. Then, 4th, time to time, go into solitude. Go away from the family, go away from the work, drop everything, turn off your phone, and spend an hour or a day or a week, or for those who can, even a month, just dedicated to introspection, prayer, meditation, a little bit of work, probably a little bit of gardening or something. Time to time go into solitude. And certain spiritual, the kind of traditional spiritual disciplines, he would call it sadhana bhajan, means the spiritual practices, sadhana, bhajana, worship, japa, meditation, puja, singing the name, he would say, Nam Gunakirtan, singing the name and glories of God. What we did last night, we sang Ram Nam Sankirtan last night. There's 108 names of Rama, and then there's a couple of other songs with more names of Rama, and we keep singing the name of Rama. And afterwards, we feel uplifted. We feel a kind of rejoicing, an exaltation by spending an hour singing the name and glories of God. So, and finally, remember death. One of his oft repeated suggestions. Keep in mind, this is temporary. This is temporary. We want the eternal. So this teaching on prayer, one important thing that was first pointed out to me by our Swami Bhajanananda, now Vice President of the Order. He says that, he points out that Sri Ramakrishna doesn't use the word prarthana very much. Prarthana is directly translatable as to pray. Oh Lord, give me this, give me that. Actually, he doesn't use that word too much. He says rather, call on God. Call on God. Daka, to call, bakul hoye dako, with longing, call on God. And that gives, it's a much more, it sounds like something coming from one's heart. One is calling, very active, very sincere, very intense. I'm calling on the Lord. You see the difference? To pray or to call with deep longing. So we're not asking, as it were, we're calling on God. So, well, the calling is an active, yearning is the mood of longing, and calling is like, hey, Mamata! That's calling. I'm calling you. Hey, Mamata, come here! So that calling, that idea of calling, oh Lord, help! Help! Silently, of course, we do it, but that's calling. Praying is, oh God, give me this, give me that, yada, 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 may all beings be happy, may all beings be well. But calls, oh God, help, save me! That's the calling. So that's the, I mean...
One question arises, those who believe in duality and love being God, so the Vivekananda and love becomes quality and all. Those who believe in non-duality, even love yourself.
Okay, so if you're a non-dualist, see, we're all of us more or less, I think, most of us at least, are non-dualists philosophically. Okay, we accept the idea that we're non-dualists, but in practice, we're dualists. As long as most of the time we think of ourselves as a body, then in practice we're going to be, to a certain extent, we're going to be dualists. We say that God doesn't exist. There's no separate God. God is the infinite one, all-pervading existence, and thou art that. All right, but then to realize that, the path of Jnana Yoga prescribes also the same longing. It says you need mumukshutvam, that yearning for liberation. So in this path of bhakti, we have that yearning for God. In the path of jnana, the non-dualist, you have the yearning for liberation. Intense yearning. Shankaracharya describes it how? Suppose you won't understand this image, and because you don't have hair. He says, if your hair has caught on fire and you're near a lake, what will you do? You will rush to that water. You'll try to get there so quickly, right? You'll get, for you, we can think, or me is equally applicable. If our clothes have caught on fire and there's water nearby, we'll want to, that kind of urgency to get to the water, to put out the fire, that kind of longing. Sri Ramakrishna actually explains it even more clearly with his story of the guru and the water, the bath time. You know the story, no? I'll remind you. We'll remind you. Oh, but by the by, today is considered a holy day in Hinduism called the Snana Jatra, in which the Lord of the universe goes and has a bath. He has a big bath. And there's a big temple in Puri in Orissa, which is dedicated to Jagannath, the Lord of the universe. And the image is very simple. I think all of you, probably almost all of us know about it. It's a very, almost a crude image, but it's been worshipped. I mean, the whole tradition of worship there is so intense. The mood is apparently incredible. So once a year, he comes out of his temple and gets a bath, and then he catches cold. And so then he has to go and visit his aunt for a few weeks, and then he comes a couple of weeks, and then he comes back. So this is the practice. But in the context of our tradition, our order, Snana Yatra is the day. What significant event happened on Snana Yatra? Yeah, but there's a significant historical event. The Kali temple at Dakshineshwar was dedicated on the Snana Yatra day, and Mother Kali was installed. And Rani Rashmani had a dream of, she was going on pilgrimage to Benares, and she had with her entourage and boats and spending many millions of rupees. And then she had a dream, don't go on pilgrimage, you'll get more merit or equal merit if you build a temple for me here on the bank of the Ganges. So she built the temple, but an image had been carved and it was put in the box, kept in the box until it's time to install it. And she had a dream. I'm suffocating in here. Hurry up. Find a day. Install me. So the Snana Yatra was the next suitable day of a festival day. So that day, the Mother of the Universe was invoked in that stone image and placed in the temple at Dakshineshwar. And then, of course, shortly after that, Sri Ramakrishna himself came to Dakshineshwar, and before long he became the worshipper and really awakened the image so that the Divine Mother was actually manifesting in that temple to a high degree. And so it's a day of big celebration at Dakshineshwar. And at Belur Math also, they do a special ritual bath with anyhow, so that's the tradition. But so this disciple asked his guru, so by what kind of yearning can one realize God? And the guru said, yeah, I'll show you. So it was time for their bath. That's what reminded me of Snana Yatra. They were going for their bath. And as you know, the Hindu bathing system is you go to a lake or a river and you go under, and your head should go under the water. Then if your head hasn't gone fully under the water, then the bath is not full and complete. The idea is that completely pure, you become completely purified. As you get purified externally, also we get purified internally. So the disciple and the guru go for their bath, and they're doing their dips, and then the disciple goes under, and the guru reaches over and pushes his head down. Now, at first, can you imagine? The guru is pushing my head down, so we wait. Oh, guru's head is there, hand is there, wait. But pretty soon, I need a breath. And so I'm starting to think, okay, I want to come up now, and guru's hand is still on my head, pushing me down. And as I struggle harder to get up, he's pushing harder. I'm starting to really struggle. I really need a breath of air. Now I really need a breath of air. So with all my strength, I push, and then he lets go. And he comes, so how did you feel? I was dying for a breath of air. Gurudev, what were you doing? When you long for God like that, then you can know that the vision of God is soon to come. So that I have to see God, or I'm going to die. It's that important. When that kind of longing comes, then. So we may not have that. We're going to talk more about longing tomorrow, actually. So I shouldn't spill all the beans now.
It happens sometimes when a person is very, very sick. It happens that person really wants to see God.
Yeah.
I've seen many times.
When people are very sick,
Almost time.
they want to see, they get that longing. And, and that's a great blessing. If we get that kind of longing, it's a tremendous blessing, because that's the kind of longing that actually brings us spiritual experience. It's a tremendous blessing. So the interesting prayer, Sri Ramakrishna, of course, he prays. There are many prayers recorded in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and I'd like to read one. And it's a beautiful description. It's Sri Ramakrishna was spending the day in Calcutta. It's 11th March, 1885. And he was at Balaram Bose's house, his Calcutta fort, where he would go. He went there 100 times. And he met so many devotees there, and he even stayed the night there sometimes, and they had so much singing and teaching and dancing even in the name of God. So it was evening, the sun was setting, it was becoming dark. Gradually it became dusk. The shadow of evening fell on Calcutta. This is M's poetic writing, translated, of course. For the moment, the noise of the busy metropolis was stilled. Gongs and conch shells proclaimed the evening worship in many Hindu homes. Devotees of God set aside their worldly duties and turned their minds to prayer and meditation. Muslims also, right after sunset, they have one of their prayers is the one that, right after the sun sets, they stop everything and go pray. What was the need? Here he observes very wisely. What was the need of prayer to a soul in constant communion with God? Oh, I missed a line here. This joining of day and night, this mystic twilight, always created an ecstatic. As the sun is set, Sri Ramakrishna tends to go into ecstasy. He starts thinking more deeply of the divine. And the devotees seated in the room looked at Sri Ramakrishna as he began to chant the sweet name of the Divine Mother. After the chanting, he began to pray. What was the need of prayer to a soul in constant communion with God? Did he not rather want to teach erring mortals how to pray? So this is beautiful observation by M. Sri Ramakrishna he starts by chanting the name. He goes into a mood. He has a mood of thinking of the divine, and he chants Mother's name. Now, he's in constant communion with Mother. He sees Mother all the time. He's constantly talking with her. Does he need to pray? M is, I think, very wise in suggesting he's praying to teach us how to pray. And he prays this beautiful prayer. Addressing the Divine Mother, he says, "O Mother, I throw myself on thy mercy. I take shelter at thy hallowed feet." I'll read the whole prayer. I do not want bodily comforts. I do not crave name and fame. I do not seek the 8 occult powers. Be gracious and grant that I may have pure love for thee, a love unsmitten by desire, untainted by any selfish ends, a love craved by the devotee for the sake of love alone. And grant me the favor, O Mother, that I may not be deluded by thy world-bewitching Maya, that I may never be attached to the world, to lust and gold, conjured up by thy inscrutable Maya. O Mother, there is no one but thee whom I may call my own. Mother, I do not know how to worship. I am without austerity. I have neither devotion nor knowledge. Be gracious, Mother, and out of thy infinite mercy, grant me love for thy lotus feet. And then M remarks, every word of this prayer, uttered from the depths of his soul, stirred the minds of the devotees. The melody of his voice and the childlike simplicity of his face touched their hearts very deeply. So, Sri Ramakrishna used to pray in this way often, and he would address this similar prayer to different aspects of the divine. Sometimes he would pray to Krishna, or to Rama, or to Divine Mother. In this case, to Divine Mother. And these different elements of the prayer are notable. First, this attitude of taking complete refuge and shelter in the divine. This is called the practice of Sharanagati. And actually in Bengali, he says, Ma, his name for Divine Mother, Ma, Ami Tomar Sharanagata Sharanagata. It means, Mother, I am your utterly dedicated and surrendered and taken refuge. Something like that, if you translate it really literally. It's very well translated. I throw myself on thy mercy. I take shelter at thy hallowed feet. Ami tomar sharanagata sharanagata. This idea that there is no refuge but the divine. I place my body, my mind, my soul, my life, my everything in God's hands. That's where he starts with this prayer, by expressing this. Then, he's telling Mother, but he's reminding himself, and we're reminding ourselves if we pray this way. We remind ourselves what we're not praying for, what we don't want. Bodily comforts. How will that help us? We are seeking God. We don't want bodily comforts. Yeah, I do. I want a soft cushion on my chair. No, but right now I'm praying to Mother. So, okay, actually, yes, Mother, now and then I may need a cushion, but actually, what I really need only is love. I only need love. I don't need a cushion. I don't need anything else. So I don't need bodily comforts. I don't want bodily comforts. I don't crave name and fame. I don't want to be famous. That won't give me, I know in my heart of hearts, that won't give me the true satisfaction. Mother, what I want, and I don't want occult powers even, though yogic powers. Even though, in India, the monks are supposed to have, are expected at least among the general population and the villagers, and they expect that a monk will have some siddhis, some powers. At least he should be able to look at your palm and tell your fortune, tell your future, or bless you that you may have a son, or get or that your son may find a good wife, or that your daughter may get a good husband, or those kind of blessings, or that your grandchildren may, all those things. Or even they may be able to read minds or tell you the winning number of the next lottery, or all those things. Yeah, they expect that sadhus should have some kind of power, or power to heal a disease, or those kind of things. So, and there's this idea that those things come. The scriptures are full of stories of warriors who have done tremendous tapasya, tremendous meditation. Why? In order to get some divine weapon, right? So this idea that through spiritual practice, we get power. And we do get power, but what kind of power do we want? We are not seeking for the power to conquer the world. We're seeking for the power to master our own minds and manifest that intense love which will bring us to the true fulfillment of our lives. So I don't want those things. I don't seek the eight occult powers. Be gracious and grant that I may have pure love, just love. That's the prayer here. For there's clearly a path, a prayer for the path of bhakti. Just grant me love, and that there's no admixture. There's no desires attached to that love. There's no selfishness attached to that love. A just love craved by the devotee for the sake of love alone. And one more thing. So it starts with refuge, taking full shelter, and then reminding ourselves what we don't want, and then saying, what do we want? What we're praying for? Love. And protection. See that I don't get confused, Mother. See that I don't forget my ideal and start thinking that actually I want those things that I said I didn't want, that I want name and fame, that I want creature comforts, that I just want to enjoy this physical life. Okay, I may have some enjoyment, but ultimately, those are all passing. And then again, recognizing there's no one, I have no one who's truly my own. Who is truly my own? God is my one and only truly my own person, my very own. Mother, then he says, this is an interesting part. Mother, I do not know how to worship. I am without austerity. I have neither devotion nor knowledge. Now, this is unusual. Sri Ramakrishna, who didn't know how to, Sri Ramakrishna was full of devotion. And he's saying he has no devotion. He's a very austere, tremendous austerities he did. He said, I have no austerity. He says, I don't know how to worship. He did worship in the temple. His whole life is like a worship. He says he doesn't know how to worship. What does that mean?
Proud to be like how Einstein even did the knowledge of full world like this coming up like worship.
The humility.
So that in India is too much. Sometimes even the people have a lot of money, they'll go out and say, or they're the rich man or they're the powerful man, they always tell us.
But Sri Ramakrishna didn't always approve of that, specifically when people would say, oh, if you praise someone and they say, oh, but I'm a great sinner. He wouldn't like that, because he says if one says constantly, I am a sinner, one becomes a sinner. One should rather say, I have chanted the name of God. How can sin still be in me? But I think, that's one nice angle, this humility. But I think it's more an acknowledgement, a recognition that whatever we do, no matter how much worship we do, no matter how many times we repeat the name of God, it's not enough. Why? Because the divine is infinite. And even if we do 1 billion repetitions of the mantra, it's still a limited number. So you can't gain the infinite through our limited. We can't gain God through our own efforts. We have to rely on grace. So it's actually a prayer for grace. So I think this is a recognition of our own limitations, that even though we may, of course, he's also teaching us how to pray. And it's true that I don't have much devotion. I want more devotion. And I don't have much austerity. I would like more austerity maybe, or maybe not, but at least I should recognize I don't have much austerity. And I'm relying on your grace, Mother. Be gracious, Mother. And out of thy infinite mercy, grant me love for thy lotus feet. So this is Sri Ramakrishna's prayer that he taught us. I think we ought to take heed of this teaching of Sri Ramakrishna, that to pray, to call. Swami Shivananda, we don't have time to get into this book this time, but this book for Seekers of God, Mahapurush Maharaj, Swami Shivananda, he is also telling people, you pray, to pray intensely, pray from the bottom of your heart. That's where we start. Meditation is actually an advanced state. So a prayer is a wonderful preparation for meditation. So that is how I thought we could bring this idea of prayer into the meditation. Of course, many of us have received instructions from a spiritual teacher in spiritual practice, and those instructions always take the first place. They're primary. If anything I say or suggest today conflicts with what you have been told by your teacher, if you have a teacher, then that takes precedence. What your teacher says takes precedence. However, I would add, and I've mentioned this before, that we can always expand. We can always add. Swami Prabhuddhanandaji, who was head of our San Francisco Center for many years in India, one of the brother novices asked him, are we to follow what our guru has taught us for our whole life? And he said, yes, unquestioningly, you follow it your whole life. But we can expand it, we can add to it. So, how do we bring our mind into a state of meditation? If we try to force it, is very difficult. It's like bringing a cow into the barn in the evening. It's time, the sun is going down. It's time for the cow to go back into the barn, but she doesn't want to go. And the head of the household, he comes with a stick and he starts trying to push. He's pulling on the rope and she's not going, and he's giving some wax with a stick, not too hard, because after all she's a beloved cow, but she's stubborn, she's not going. And then his young daughter comes out. She's holding a carrot, and she holds the carrot, and the cow comes running, and she runs into the barn, and the cow follows, and she gives the cow the carrot, and the carrot's happy, and the cow's in the barn, and so if dad's also happy, everybody's happy. So the mind is a little bit like that. Mind is like a stubborn cow. If we try to force the mind to meditate, it's going to rebel. So rather, we like working with the cow, we have to gently lead the mind into meditation. So we hold we give different carrots or apple or things to draw the mind slowly into that state of meditation. And prayer is one way to do that. And moreover, it's not just that an intense prayer uttered from the depths of our hearts prepares our mind for meditation. It also calls in divine grace, because prayer is a two-way street. Though we may often not be aware of the response, but the response is there. And we have the assurance of all the sages and saints that a heartfelt prayer, God listens to the sincere prayer. So this idea that we pray intensely. Now I'd like to bring in one more idea, which we've talked about before, introduced to me by Eknath Ishwaran. He's a well-known Vedanta teacher. He's died not so long ago. He came to this country I think in the 1950s, and began teaching. He was an English professor, but he began teaching meditation, and gradually he became a full-time meditation teacher, Vedanta teacher. He's teaching full Vedanta, only he's pretty much avoiding all the Sanskrit words and all of that. And when he came on the ship from India, he had two books with him, the Bhagavad Gita and the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So it falls right into our tradition. And he developed this system of meditation he calls passage meditation. And there's one particular part of this which is so important. In his system of meditation, one memorizes a passage of text in whatever language is most comfortable. But we have to memorize it. So if we were going to take this prayer, for instance, Sri Ramakrishna's prayer as a passage, it should be a passage that's true. It's a holy passage. It's a true passage. It's not just a poem written by anybody. It should be some text written by a great sage, a great saint, a prayer. He loves to use the prayer of Saint Francis. But this is a prayer, or you can use anything. You can use a passage from the Upanishads. You can use an Advaitic text, like Shankaracharya, Mano buddhya hankar chitaninaham. I am not the Buddha, I'm none of these things. What am I? I am Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shiva. I am that existence absolute. I am that eternal consciousness and bliss. That is my true nature. So whatever the text, we memorize it. Start small. And then we slowly repeat the words of that text, whether it's the prayer or some other affirmation. Slowly repeat it, letting each word sink down into our hearts. So if we were doing this prayer, oh Mother, I throw myself on thy mercy. I take shelter at thy hallowed feet. So we find the pace that suits us. But this is the essential part of this teaching, this next part, which is, because we will get distracted. Mind is such, mind will get distracted and start thinking of something else. What I'm going to do as soon as I'm done with my meditation. What should I cook for supper tonight? Last night I cooked rice and dal, but my husband, he doesn't like the same thing every night for supper. So what shall I cook tonight? The mind will get distracted. When that happens, it's normal. When we become aware that we were distracted, when we realize, oh, I was repeating the prayer, I got sidetracked, we bring our mind back and we start over from the beginning. This is the key thing. Start over from the beginning. And this is brilliant. This is the thing that was really new for me. Why? We could just pick up from where we left off, the last part that we remembered, or I remembered saying that, so I left off there, I'll pick up there. See, that gives the mind permission. Mind says, oh yeah, I'm praying, I'm coming back to it, but I just need to think about supper tonight and what movie we're going to go see tomorrow, and I'm coming back to the prayer. But so we just give this little strictness to the mind that, okay, mind, if you want, you can go off, but when you come back, you're going to have to start over from the very beginning. From the very beginning, really? Yes, from the beginning. We start over from the beginning. Okay. So then we start over again from the beginning. And again, we get distracted. And then we realize, oh, I got distracted again. Start over again at the beginning. As many times as we get distracted, we start at the beginning again. So it may be that when we first start this practice, we never get through the text. We never finish because we keep bringing. But this is the training of the mind. This is gently yet firmly training the mind. And gradually the mind learns, oh, if I want to get through this prayer, then I have to stick with it. I can't get distracted, because every time I get distracted, that my boss makes me start over again. So, okay, so that's the way to work with the mind. One little hint in how to work with the mind, you just start over. And I know, I've been doing this for a while, so sometimes, I can get through without getting distracted. Maybe I'll almost get through and I'll get distracted. And I'll think, oh, I don't have to start over again. I've been doing this long enough. But see, then that's very dangerous. Then that gives the mind permission. So actually, we have to start over. We have to start over. So that's the beautiful hint. So we can take this prayer and pray this prayer or whatever holy text that we have, and this is a natural way of starting to calm our mind and starting to draw it within and starting to lead the cow into the barn by gently repeating it starts to become a friend. A prayer can start to become a trusted friend. We can turn to it when we start feeling unrest, or we can turn to that prayer again. And the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna has so many beautiful songs that are translated into beautiful poems. Most of them are prayers. They're perfect for this kind of practice. So we can have a few of these different kind of prayers or poems or even affirmations, like Swami Vivekananda's Song of the Free, where he has this beautiful, it's not a prayer, but an affirmation that let eyes grow dim and heart grow faint and friendship fail and love betray. Let fate its 100 horrors send and clotted darkness block the way. All nature wear one angry frown to crush you out. Still, know, my soul, you are divine. March on and on, nor right nor left, but to the goal. Nor angel I, nor man, nor brute, nor body mind, nor he, nor she. The books do stop in wonder mute to tell my nature. I am he. So these kind of things, if we do a little work, the Indian tradition was based on memorization. So, but now just now, this was composed by Swami Vivekananda in English. So it's a very powerful, it's like an Upanishad, but written in English for Swamiji's dear sister Mary Hale. So it's wonderful to memorize some passages, and then we have them as like a treasure.
You just explain. I understand some of the word, but few words I skipped it. I couldn't understand.
Oh, what I just
Summary meaning. And I know I'm
yes, our true nature, whatever difficulties may come in life, even if the most terrible things happen in my life, still, even then, my true nature is divine. My true nature is infinite bliss. That is my true self. I'm not a body. I'm not a mind. It's very poetic. Nor angel I, nor man, nor brute, nor body, mind, nor he, nor she. See, we are very identified with our I am he, you are she. We have that very strong thing. Now, of course, some people like to think that, well, I don't want to be either he or she. Maybe they're actually Vedantists because they're having the sense that I'm not he or she. I want to be them. And so I want to actually, we say, I am that infinite reality. I'm neither he nor she. We think of ourselves always as, I'm he, I'm she. No, I am nor body, mind, nor he, nor she. The books do stop in wonder mute to tell my nature. Even the books cannot explain it because it's avang manaso gocharam, beyond mind and speech. Our true nature is beyond the mind, beyond the speech. They stop it. The books do stop in wonder mute to tell my nature. I am he. I am that infinite reality. So that's a poem from Vivekananda, part of a poem. So that's a little bit on practical tips of the path of bhakti through prayer, and reminding ourselves that Sri Ramakrishna suggests that we pray, and even gives us a suggestion for how to pray. Of course, as devotees, we'll pray also for others. Say we lose our job. Yes, we'll pray, because where else will we turn? We will turn to the divine to pray. Or say we're facing some real difficulty in life. We pray, absolutely. But Swami Swahanandaji would suggest at least once a day, just pray for the spiritual side of things. Well, at least once a day. Other times also we can pray, but at least once a day, have that kind of pure spiritual prayer, just praying for, say, for instance, in this prayer, just for love. And then he would also say, see, and this was his teacher, Swami Vijnanananda, used to say, see, to Sri Ramakrishna, just pray for devotion, just pray for spiritual qualities. To Mother, you can ask everything. Sri Ramakrishna is a little strict, so we just approach him with for spiritual prayer. And to Mother, we can tell everything else. So, and then how prayer can help deepen our meditation, and how the practice of meditation, rather than trying to force the mind to meditate, we try to lead the mind into meditation through prayer, through this maybe reciting a holy passage slowly, and of course there are other ways which we'll take up some other time. Sending a current of holy thought to all creation, as Vivekananda puts it, and those kind of things. Music can help. So we have talked for another hour. So I think it's a good time to try to wrap up. And why not we sit up and take just maybe we sit quietly together for 5 minutes, and then we'll chant Om 3 times, and we'll sit for 5 minutes, and then we'll chant Om again for 3 times. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.